My name is Lenny Kovar. I'm 16 years old, and this is my story on my suicide attempt. When I was 15 years old, I went to the neighborhood pool with two friends, whose identities I'm going to keep anonymous. We're going to call the guy friend Jonathan and the girl friend. She wasn't my girlfriend, she was just like a female acquaintance. We're going to call her Stacy. So me, Jonathan, and Stacy went to the pool. We met this really pretty girl. Her name was, I can't remember now. Her name was Kennedy, but she went by Ellie. So, me, Jonathan, and Stacy, we got to messing around, and I purposefully threw the ball over and hit Kennedy, and she threw it back just to get her attention, and we just kind of made friends. All three of us, actually. We had like a group video call later that night, and it quickly turned into more of like a teenage romance kind of thing, because like I ended up walking her home and she introduced me to her grandparents, and I got really excited about it. And a few days go on, we just chill out, hang, play sports down the street at the local park. And one day, Kennedy / Ellie comes over, and we just hang out. We start watching some anime. And when I say I'm gonna go get snacks, she tells me to wait. I turn around, look at her, and she kisses me. Sorry, it's just really hard to do this. I'm not really open emotionally. She kissed me. It turned into making out. That lasted about 4 or 5 minutes. She said she had to go. I was like, okay, cool. And or I wasn't like, okay, cool. I was like, no, stay. And she was like, no, I promised him. She had promised Jonathan that she'd go to her house or his house later. And she proceeded to do the same thing to Jonathan that she did to me. She hung out with him, and then when he was about to leave to go get something, she told him to wait, then she kissed him. I got into a big argument with her over it, and or actually it wasn't till later that day when we went down to the park and were playing tackle football. And I heard Jonathan kept calling her, hey, babe, can you get me this? Hey, babe, can you do that? And thanks, babe. And then I realized, because I'm not stupid, that, oh, she kissed him. That's kind of screwed up. I didn't bring it up there because I didn't want to start a fight. Though later that night over Snapchat, I was like, hey, Jonathan, did Ellie kiss you? And he was like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I know you had feelings for her. And I'm like, dude, that's not what I'm talking about. She kissed me too. And he was like, what the hell? And we both proceeded to go off on Ellie. Go off. We proceeded to call her out, and eventually we made her cry. Because she's well, there's not really a nice way to put this, but a tramp, a slut. And her big brother, who was supposedly involved with gangs and drugs. I know he was involved with drugs because he did a lot of drugs while we were there. But he was supposedly involved in gangs, and he was supposed to have killed someone. So he was real big and scary. And he was 17. I think he's 18 now because I turned 16 last month. And things got heated. We made her cry. Then her big brother got on to me specifically because apparently I was the one that started it because I called her out first. And he kept yelling at me for making her cry. And then he was just like, get your little ass out here, I'm gonna kick your ass, or whatever. And I was like, no. And then he threatened to come into my home. And I was just like, all right, if you come into my home, you will be met with a gun. And he was like, oh, so you want to play pistols? And me being the dumb 15-year-old, I bluffed and I was like, no, I got a shotgun. Which I don't. Uh, so what are you doing, cat? Get out of my guitar case. Anyway. So later that night at around like 3 a.m., I think, I went down the street. I snuck out. I went down the street. I screamed at the top of my lungs at their window. And I could see their shadows moving and talking. And Ellie kept texting me that she was sorry and that she wanted me just to go away because I was fed up with it. I was like, hey, you want to fight me? Come fight me. You want to play pistols? Come and shoot me. I wanted to die at that point. I didn't care. After about 15 to 20 minutes of that, I walked back to my house, sat down on the curb, cried, and called a friend who will also remain anonymous because I don't want to call her out or anything. And we talked, cracked jokes, I laughed a bit. And I thought I was fine. I thought it was all over, so I went back up, went to sleep. Woke up next day, felt completely hopeless. Didn't eat breakfast, didn't eat anything. I played my day out normally until my mom left. Then I went into her room. I grabbed the .38 caliber pistol that she has. I put it on my social media that I was sorry and that, goodbye, all that sentimental bullshit. And my friends started calling me and they were like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm doing it. You can't change my mind. So I went downstairs. I walked out into the driveway. I fired a test shot to the air just to make sure the gun wasn't going to backfire and blow my hand off. Then I put it right here to my temple and pulled the trigger. From what I know, because I could still hear, my vision went black. I fell to the ground, but I could still hear. Like I heard myself hit the ground. I heard my friends running up and start crying, and I heard Jonathan call for an ambulance, or it was like, go get the police, and I heard Stacy call 911. I heard the Lifeline come and airlift me to the hospital. Actually, I think I was put in an ambulance because there's trees in our neighborhood, so the Lifeline couldn't land. So I got put in an ambulance who drove me somewhere open, and then the Lifeline came pick me up, and I got airlifted to Herman Memorial, Texas Children's. And luckily, I had the best pediatric brain surgeon in the greater Houston area, maybe even all of Texas. Dr. David Sandberg, I will give him credit for this. He saved my life. I was going to live because it wasn't that deep of a wound, or it was deep. It went all the way right to here, but it wasn't that complex. He could have just taken the bullet out, stitched me up, left it there, but I would have been brain damaged because of the severe hemorrhaging, which he controlled. If the hemorrhaging had been uncontrolled, I would likely be mentally retarded by now, or I would be. And not by now. I would have been immediately mentally retarded. And so he controlled the hemorrhaging. He took the bullet out. He stitched me all up. He performed a bilateral craniotomy, which is where he cuts from ear over the top to ear, and then he pulls the skin forward, and he took out all the skull from here to here and around the front. Pulled that out. It wasn't a perfect cut because it kind of went like bam, and then there was a little chunk that was forward, and then it went bam. When I woke, and I had, hold on, I'm getting off track here. I had a series of nightmares. Really bad ones, at least in my opinion. I had nightmares of being tortured. I had nightmares of dying. I had nightmares that I was stranded out in the ocean. According to my parents, I woke up multiple times, but The only time I remember was when I fully woke up and I was like sentient and I was fully aware of everything. After the surgery, I was in a medically induced coma for about 3 weeks. And I woke up multiple times after that 3 week period, and Dr. David Sandberg, let's just call him Dr. Sandberg at this point, he would come in and he would yell at me and he's like, "Hey, how's my boy doing?" And like, I could hear that too. Because like I could still hear most of everything, and I think that influenced a lot of my dreams. And when I woke up, I wasn't in pain. I wasn't in pain for a long time. I didn't even realize my mom had told me what happened. And she was just like, "No, if you feel an itch on your head, tell me." Because at this point, I was fresh out of surgery. I wasn't fresh. I was 3 weeks out, but I had staples running over the length of my head, and and I was like, "Oh my god," because I felt like some bumpiness, and my head really itched, because that's how it feels when it heals, I think. Either way, I was tapping at the staples, and I was like, "This feels so weird." And she was like, "All right, now don't push down too hard." They had to take a piece of your skull out, and at first I couldn't tell, because like I didn't realize that this whole front area was gone, and I couldn't speak either. Like my whole voice was gone. I think the hemorrhaging and the swelling of my brain had pressed down on one of my vocal cords and paralyzed it. And I think it's still paralyzed actually, because my left one still works, but my right one is completely paralyzed. My left one just compensates for it and moves over so far that they touch and vibrate. So my voice cracks a bit more now, so that's a thing. And when I got out of the hospital, I was really excited to go home. I got to see my dog, I got to see my cat. My parents and grandparents and all sorts of family had already been up there. I was in Herman Memorial for almost a month, and then I went to a rehabilitation hospital called Shriners. They're amazing, by the way. And I was there for about a week. And I had a really speedy recovery. I was determined to get back on my feet because at that point I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk. I was really impulsive, so I had a hard time thinking. I was missing my skull, so I had to wear like this helmet. And I was in Herman Memorial for a while, and within like the first 3 days, even though I couldn't talk, they like gave me a sheet of paper and a pen, and I was surprised I could still write my name legibly, especially in cursive. And they were like, "Can you draw where you're at?" And I drew a hospital. And they were like, "Can you write the name?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, Texas Children's." They all expected me to be like, I guess, brain damaged to a certain extent. But I wasn't, thanks to Dr. Sandberg. So it was really challenging. And when I went to Shriners, I could still barely talk. I could whisper, but I couldn't talk. I think my first words were a baseball player's name or I guess my second first words, because my grandparents were arguing who had built the seventh floor at Texas Children's, because it was a baseball player, and he had paid for that floor to be built, and they were arguing over who it was, and then I was like, "Roger Clemens," because it was Roger Clemens, and he built the floor. And my grandma was like, hold on, he's saying something. And then she leaned in real close, and I whispered into her ear, "Roger Clemens." And I think that's her favorite baseball player now. So I was there for a while, I walked up, got around. I couldn't talk very well, but I used the extent of my sign language that I had learned. Like, I learned how to signal that I was thirsty, I learned how to signal I was hungry, I learned how to signal I needed to use the bathroom, I learned what I needed to do in the bathroom. And yeah, and when I got to Shriners, they found out my vocal cord was working because they had done a what's it called, ENT, ear, nose, and throat. They stuck a camera up my nose and down through my throat, which was really weird, but it was also the tube. I had a tube in my nose and down to my stomach, actually, that was I was being fed through. I don't know what's in that hospital food, but whatever it is, it makes me really fat. And at first, when I woke up, I was still really suicidal, and they had the hospital psychologist come talk to me, and he prescribed me all sorts of medicines. Or he prescribed me Zoloft, which is what I'm still on now. Mr. Krabs, what are you doing? You're so cute. And here he's my cat. What is it, Mr. Krabs? Artemis. Oh, that's so cute. What are you doing, kitty? Interrupting my video? Okay. Oh my god, what is it? I just put the camera back down. You want me to hold you? You want to be held? Oh my god. He wants to be held. So I guess this is happening now. I got out of the hospital, came home, and they knew my vocal cord was working because I could whisper. It was raspy, but I could kind of speak. And my voice just got more powerful to what it is now. I think my speech instructor would actually be really happy with me if he heard my voice. He's a sweet kitty. And, well, you don't want to be in my lap anymore? Just gonna wander off under my desk? Huh? Okay, go play. No. What is it? Sorry, this is turning into a cat video. Shut up. So I got home, I recovered really quickly. I went about 5 to 6 months without this front portion of my skull. And I slept through most of July and August. So I missed the start of school. But when I got my helmet, I went home. I was going to be homeschooled. And like about 3 more weeks to a month later, I was cleared by Dr. Sandberg to actually go back to public school, which was at first kind of humiliating. Can't fucking speak. Because I was scared of what people were going to think of my helmet. And my mom was like, no, we'll buy you all these sorts of clothes. And I was like, that's still not going to change the fact that I have a helmet on my head. And when I went back, a lot of my friends were just really happy to see me, but there were a few stupid freshmen who were like, oh, there's a kid with the helmet, let's boom. They ran past, flicked me on my helmet, and I could have had them arrested, actually, and I could have charged them with assault. But I didn't. I just got them in a whole lot of trouble. What is it? He wants attention. So I gotta wrap this up quick. I went throughout the school year up until Christmas break, and over Christmas break, 2 days before we got out actually, so I had to finish all my finals in 1 day. Then I got like a 3-day period before surgery, and on December 18th, 2019, I got fitted with my new forward portion of the skull. It is a PEEK implant, which is like a combination of plastic and metal, I think, as far as I know. It's really strong. It's actually stronger than my original bone was. What is it? And I was bald for a while, and of course, my family and all the people who knew me say I was rocking the bald look. I don't think I was. I think I looked awful. And the day of surgery, I had my head wrapped in a bandage, and I only stayed over like one night in the hospital, which is actually something my grandpa joked about. He was just like, he heals so quickly, he'll probably only spend one night in the hospital. And when I got out, he came and see me, and he was just like, I was kidding. Hold on, I gotta go. Ah. No, stop it. Sorry, I had to let my cat out of my room. So, yeah, and I kept going through life, and here I am now. I got back into baseball, which is what I really love to do. I played guitar a bit in the hospital, actually. And, yeah, here I am now. My hair's grown pretty long. I've had to get 2 haircuts. If I hadn't gotten a haircut, it'd probably be down to here by now. And, yeah, I've been traveling on my fitness journey. As far as I know, fitness. Which I was actually pretty damn strong before. And, my body fat was like, 11 to 12%, I think. And now it's like anywhere between 15 and 20%, which I know is more than most people can say. But, yeah, I'm just living life. That's my story on suicide. I love my family. I love my life. I love my animals. I love my friends. They gave me a lot of support. I'm really happy for them. And I'm sure they're really happy for me because I've made a speedy recovery. That's what I'm saying. I'm happy for them. They're the ones who put all the effort to talk to me, and all of them were like, we just want to let you know, they're there for me all the time. I have a massive support system. Love it. I'll probably make more videos sometime. I don't know. But for now, this is Landon Kovar signing off.